Welcome back as we continue with our discussions, pre-budget discussions 2022. Again, all roads and eyes and ears lead to the House later on this afternoon, and the discussion will be going on today, tomorrow, I would imagine, for some days to come. And it must be said that labor plays such an important part in this discussion. And to give some perspective, the Assistant General Secretary of the Joint Trade Union Movement is on the Zoom line this morning, Mr. Trevor Johnson. Good morning, Mr. Johnson. Welcome to the Morning Brew.
Good morning to you, Jason.
Now, labor, that's the wheel that keeps the economy turning, and it's imperative to get your perspective. What's the labor outlook? What is the feedback? What is the sense from your members concerning this budget that will be read in a couple hours?
Certainly, thanks, Jason. Well, we are looking forward to what we would call a people-centered budget. And quite frankly, we believe that's not just for labor, but it's for the entire country, even for business, because we are in the midst of this unprecedented global pandemic. There have been a lot of challenges over the past year and a half, and Labour would have met with the Minister of Finance last Tuesday, and we would have put forward some of our perspective to him with respect to what Labour would like to see in this 2021-2022 budget, because we believe it has to focus on restoration, it has to focus on giving back to the people, or getting people out of the sense of degradation that they have found themselves in with this global pandemic. Workers in particularly have been very hard hit, and we are looking forward in this budget to see some measures, people-centered measures, that will enable people to get back on their feet, to steady the ship of the economy, as it were, and to ensure that even small and micro enterprise businesses, especially, who have been very hard hit by the present global pandemic, that they also would find something in this budget to stimulate economic activity and business growth.
So, Mr. Johnson, I'm happy to know that you all received an audience. You all got an audience with the Finance Minister last Tuesday. What were some of the stronger recommendations put forward? Just pinpoint a couple of the real potent and strong recommendations to ensure that this is a people-centered budget.
Well, certainly, and a few of the recommendations we would have put had to do, for example, with the issue of taxes. We don't see now being a time where new taxes should be introduced on an already burdened population, not just the working population. So we are advocating that there really should be no new taxes to burden the population at this time. And when we say no new taxes, that will include the property tax. We believe that that has to be deferred at this point in time, because the public, homeowners, working people just cannot sustain another tax added on to what they already do. We are fairly taxed population and working class, if I could put it like that, and therefore that was one of the strong emphases that we put to the Minister of Finance. We also want to look at the whole issue of what is happening, for example, in the health sector with the healthcare workers at this point in time, and some emphasis on that. You would have seen over the weekend, I think there was a commitment by the Prime Minister, for example, to deal with the issue of that sort of precarious employment that exists, and it's not just in the healthcare sector. The issue of contract work, precarious work, people having contracts from a month, 2 months, 3 months in this time. We need people to have a steady employment at this particular time. And very, very high on the agenda would be the issue of how the government deals with outstanding negotiations in the public and in the state sector. There's somewhere in the realm of almost 100 outstanding negotiations in the public and the state sector. And when I say outstanding, we're talking in some cases from 2014. So we're going into assuming that we're talking 3-year negotiating periods for collective agreements. We now entering our 3rd period when workers would not have had an increase or any kind of adjustment in their salaries. But these same workers, as you're aware, are facing increased prices on a daily basis. The Supermarkets Association would have indicated a few weeks ago, yes, prices are going up because of shipping, because of all sorts of things, shortages, because of the COVID-19 pandemic. So the issue of how the government deals with outstanding negotiations. Notice I'm not saying that we expect an immediate settlement, but the government has not been speaking to trade unions representing private, public and state sector workers on the issue of how we settle these negotiations that have been outstanding for a long time.
And it's interesting, Mr. Johnson, you said that because in your statement you said it's only through real, honest dialogue, social dialogue between powers that be and the unions can we get back to that place of recovery. You know, interestingly, last Friday, I was taking some calls right here on the Morning Brew, and I was taken aback because many of the callers seemed to really be out of favor. The sympathy levels were a bit low as it relates to the unions, and especially the time of some of the call for day of prayer, the call for the blackout. What say you to some of those people who might be a bit wary with the timing of some of the union's actions at this particular critical moment we find ourselves?
Well, the thing about it is that you will always have, I imagine, different views, different perspectives. The perspective that you might have heard is not necessarily the perspective that we are getting in terms of people calling into the offices of various trade unions or coming in because of issues, whether it relates to COVID pandemic leave, issues that they are facing on the job right now, not just in the health sector, but as I said, we have precarious employment. Doctors are complaining. They have contracts for 2 and 3 months, and then they cannot get vacation leave. Nurses and other healthcare workers. We have other people in both the private and the public sector. So there are a number of issues that are facing workers now, and unions, quite frankly, we have, we have a maximum of cases we are dealing with now in terms of people looking for some kind of relief. So yes, there would be, I imagine, a view that we have to, labor may not be in favor in some quarters, but the reality is that there are issues to be confronted. Workers are suffering, and there are workers who are crying out for some kind of intervention by unions. And that's why I emphasize we are not saying that we want an immediate settlement, but you cannot have people like the workers at Cipriani College who have not had an increase for 2007. We are in 2021, right? So that's almost approaching 6 negotiating periods. The workers of Cardi, what do you tell these workers who have not had a new collective agreement since 2004? And we are in 2021. So you have to look at it and strike a balance on both sides. There are people, there are workers who are crying out because there are workers, for example, their national insurance contributions are being deducted from their salaries, but it is not being remitted to the National Insurance Board. So when they go to make a claim, they are unable to get relief. So there are a whole number of factors. We could spend hours talking about that. Yes. There are issues which unions have a responsibility to pursue, and we simply will continue to do so, regardless of those who might have a negative or an alternative view.
I'm glad you were able to give your perspective there, because, you know, there's always different sides to every discussion. And again, I go back to what you would have mentioned, and I say it, quote, only through genuine social dialogue can Trinidad and Tobago be put on the road to fair economic and social recovery. I think that's a very potent part of your text. I'll give you the final say as we look to take that break. Again, just your outlook and your sentiments, the perspective coming from the unions, the perspective from labor as it relates to budget day 2022. Go right ahead.
Certainly, we are looking forward in this budget. As I said, we call it, it has to be there. There's a demand for a people-centered budget. We cannot see a budget come in that brings austerity measures in terms of more taxes, etc. And just to emphasize or to respond to a point you made a couple times on the issue of social dialogue, the Labour is on record as seeking to meet with not just the Minister of Finance, but all line ministers with responsibility for all the various ministries and state sector enterprises. And we are willing and ready at any time. We have written, we have submitted correspondence to the Minister of Finance. We have our Labour Economic Alternative Plan, which was done since 2016, and we have revised it so that Labour is not just talking. Labour has very concrete positions and recommendations that we have given to the government. We have shared even with the business sector, and we expect that if not all, at least some of them would be taken seriously, because, as I said, this is an issue where we all have to come into this together, government, business, and labor, in terms of social dialogue, in terms of being willing to talk. The Joint Trade Union Federation, that is the Joint Trade Union Movement, the National Trade Union Center, and the Federation of Independent Trade Unions, all the umbrella trade union bodies would have come together, and we would have gone and met the Minister of Finance as a group to represent the position. So this is not just one segment of the labor movement speaking. This is a collective voice. Entire labor movement. Yeah. Collective voice of labor, putting our recommendations to the government. It's documented. We have Labour Economic Alternative Plan, and we have a number of documents and position papers which we have put and which are available for anyone who would like to have access to them. Yes.
Mr. Johnson, I'll end the same way I started, by suggesting and saying, with no fear of contradiction, it's important. I think it is of utmost importance to have Labour in the discussion. I thank you for the perspective this morning, and let's see how things pan out today with the budget. We'll probably talk after.
Yes.
In the days and weeks ahead.
Certainly, Jason. Yes, certainly, Jason. We are looking forward to that.
All right.
Thank you.
All the best. I'm happy they got an audience last week. They got a virtual audience there with the finance minister, and I'm hoping that some of their recommendations are being taken into consideration. Up next, we touch base with the president of the Confederation of Regional Business Chambers. The budget discussion continues on this, your Budget Monday. It's CNC3. We come back after these.